Hey everyone, it's Types, and today I'm going to be talking about Cube in the Pokemon TCG and what it is and how to build a cube because it is honestly arguably the best Pokemon TCG format, and this isn't some like hot take or anything. If you played a cube, it's really fun. It's really fun. There are some caveats to it that it's let's be honest. The main way people play Pokemon, it's standard, right? And then there's like something like pre-release as well. But Cube is really fun, and it's 100% if you're someone who really likes the Pokemon TCG, which hopefully you are if you watch this my channel. And if you are new to this channel, well, welcome and subscribe as well to see more content. But Cube is something that's really cool, and I actually did a poll asking what people wanted to see content on. A bunch of people did say Cube. I will quickly mention though that Cube, like making Cube content and like gameplay is actually really, really difficult on YouTube. You don't really see it much because it's hard to make and kind of like make it watchable because and one of the big things that's the issue is it's slow. There's two things that are an issue. It's slow and it requires a bunch of people. There are ways around both of these things. And while I'm going to be going over Cube and different things that kind of go into Cube and kind of different types, I guess, as well, I'm not going to go into all the ways. There are some ways, specifically, there's some like two-player cubes. I don't really like them that much. Or sorry, two-player drafts, which I don't know if I guess they're cubes, but they're very different. I'm not going to be going over that. There's a bunch of those, and they're fine. Some people like them, but Cube, if you're not familiar, and I'm going to be actually looking at this website, Cube Koga, as well. Cube Koga is the best cube resource as far as I'm aware for the Pokemon TCG. I don't know too many different resources on Cube, to be honest. I'm going to talk about, I mean, Cube actually has some different resources and stuff. This video is by Omnipoke. Omnipoke is the channel, the Pokemon TCG channel I'm aware of that's like both pretty big and talks about Cube some. I will say this video is it's not bad. The audio quality is bad. This is an old OmniPoke video. My audio quality is could be better. Could be worse, definitely. And this is a pretty old video, so I did want to mention that. I think this one's pretty solid there. There's some different ones, but obviously, yeah, this video as well. And yeah, so let's hop into what actually a cube is, and then how to build it. I think there are a few things that this article or these articles talk about that I don't necessarily agree with. They're not necessarily wrong, but I think they kind of don't fully explain certain things. So, first of all, what is a cube? This is a carefully curated collection of Pokemon cards, typically between 240 and 720 cards, and they can be drafted. So, cube and draft in the Pokemon TCG are very similar. The terms that I use sometimes interchangeably. They are not the same thing. So first of all, a cube is the collection of cards, but if you're doing a cube, you're drafting. So drafting, if you're not familiar, there's pack drafting, and pack drafting is you get a bunch of packs. So with a cube, you're going to have what I describe as simulated packs. You take all the cards in the cube, you shuffle them into, let's just say, sets of 10, and you then hand one out to each person. And so again, this is a multiplayer thing. Multiplayer is more than two people, a bunch of people ideally. And what we're going to do is each person gets their cards. They see 10 of them. Let's see if I can do it. Let's see. Yeah, so I'll sure a pack of 15 cards. These are very small. And I look here and I'm like, okay, well, I want to take this card, Ultra Ball or whatever. You take it out, and then you get passed a pack from the person next to you. You pass yours to the person next to you as well. And essentially, what you do is you get a bunch of cards to then make a deck out of it. In some ways, it's similar to pre-release or build and battle. The difference, there's obviously some differences, though. Specifically, the fact that you are now making a lot of decisions kind of as you go about deck building. It really is pretty heavily about deck building. There's playing, obviously. Then what you do is you build your deck. You play against other people. Generally, I'd say you play against everyone. I'm not like the biggest cube expert. I haven't played in tons, but when I've done it, I've usually played against all the other people or most of the other people. You can do obviously whatever you want. And I do want to say, Cube, I'm going to give you some suggestions and some core rules and like different resources will give you rules and stuff, but do whatever you want, right? Do whatever you want. Cube is honestly like so fun, even when it's done wrong. Like I went to a cube with someone else. I'm not gonna lie, the cube, objectively speaking, was kind of bad, but the play experience was still really fun. And it's more about like the vibes. And don't take it too seriously either. Just have a fun time when you're doing it. Because again, it is with a bunch of people. The drafting, the playing is just going to be 1v1 games, presumably. But with the drafting, you are, sitting with people talking. Things might get messed up. If it gets messed up, whatever, it's not a huge deal. Just kind of roll with it. You can take it more seriously, and there are people who do take it more seriously, but it's something that can just be fun. Again, it does need a bunch of people though. And it takes time as well to do. So again, you can see between 240 and 720 cards. My cube is 504 cards. The reason that it's this amount of cards is because it's divisible by by 6, by 7, and by 8, meaning it can be used theoretically with. I mean, it is divisible by 7. That's most cubes are not. So if I have 7 people, I can use all the cards. That's honestly not a very good reason, and I'm probably going to change it at some point. But that's where that number comes from. And so that's a lot of cards, right? And theoretically, if you're like, looking through, essentially, you're going through all the cards, it's going to take a little while. And so, you're going to spend some time drafting, and then you're going to play a bunch of games as well. Since you're going to play a tournament, if you're doing this in person, which, by the way, you should do this in person. This cube also doesn't work very well online. I mean, it can work online, but it's definitely better in person, especially when you have that engagement there. And so that's an important thing, right? Again, this is casual, and that is important to understand. It's casual. Let's go through this. So again, you get the packs, you get the cards in the cube, and then presumably you play against all the other people. Sometimes you play against the people at a separate time. That could happen, but that's less likely. And then here it is. Everyone chooses a card, passes the rest. And there's different sizes. Also, I will say generally you're probably looking at 15 card packs if you're looking at 8 people, because you want to see the same pack a couple of times, or each pack a couple of times generally. So you want to do that. The size of the cube doesn't matter too much. I will mention, so there are, I believe it's called a Chaos Cube is generally the name used. With that cube, you will have 1 copy of every card. If you are doing that or running these thin evolution lines or thin cards that synergize with each other a lot, then you need to use all the cards, because otherwise it can feel really bad if you can just like essentially never have the opportunity to see something because it's just not in the cube. So in that situation, you need to be using all the cards, but you don't necessarily have to, other than that, which isn't how I'd recommend you build it anyways, because you can just like not use all the cards, and then you can shave off a few if the amount of players doesn't go in evenly, and you can use part of a cube or whatever. It can hurt the experience some, but it's not like the end of the world doing that. I certainly would not say. So the size of the cube doesn't necessarily matter too much. Obviously, with a large amount of people and large decks, you need the cube to be at least that big. Generally, in terms of your deck, you want to be, I'd say you're generally looking at 40 card decks. You want to be drafting maybe 40. Maybe like 50 cards, 45. You can do whatever though. If you want to have people have better decks, then you have them draft more cards. And if you want them to have more like weaker decks that are more varied and inconsistent, which can be fun. That sounds bad, but it can be fun. Then have a smaller amount of cards people draft, potentially a smaller cube there. So those are things you want to consider when the size of it. How's it different? Obviously, your deck won't be as good. You look at build and battle, but this is like you both have more control because you kind of choose what you go for, your archetype, but then you have less control in terms of, I mean, your deck's not going to be kind of as refined as, a build and battle deck comes immediately. Less of a very clear game plan. I do want to say this is why players love Cube. There are a few things that I disagree with where this, or that are slightly strange. So first of all, it says no collection barrier. This isn't true necessarily. Cube can be good for new play, or Cube, if you are the one with the cube and you invite someone to a cube, that person doesn't need to have any cards. But you really need to know how to play the game at an okay level. I played cube with newer players, like very very new players. It's going to be a bit of potentially rough experience. They're not necessarily going to hate it, but it's definitely not the thing I'd recommend for new players. I definitely recommend pre-releases. Like that's the best way for new players to get into the game, and I'd say standard would still be better for newer players, because you're deck building, but also you're drafting. You're going to probably draft badly if you don't really know what you're doing. You don't need to be a perfect player or anything. You can definitely have different skill levels, but you don't want someone who's like virtually brand new to the game. So and then in terms of building your cube, You could proxy it if you want to. I think it's more fun not proxying it. I'm someone who doesn't really care about proxies. I love them, but for a cube, I have in my cube. These are all cards I own. I haven't really bought these as singles very much. Most of these are cards that I've acquired throughout my years of playing the Pokemon TCG, and most people's collections will look something kind of like mine, and obviously we'll talk about it. But you do need some collection to really build a cube. There are lots of different things you can do. If you have a small collection, you can still build a cube. So you have lots of options, and I also will mention probably a couple of products to potentially buy. Obviously, you can just buy some singles as well, but there are a few products that I think will help you nicely with a cube. They're the ones with a bunch of trainers, right? They're going to be the trainers toolkits and the new Meowth EX product that I don't remember the name of. That's $10 with 40 trainers or whatever in it. That's going to be solid if you're looking for trainers for a cube, because just from opening packs, you're not going to have enough trainers. But yeah, and then you're going to see different things. It is social, it's creative and stuff. Um, you don't need to spend a ton of time on a cube. You can, but you don't have to. I'll go over how you can do it quicker. It still will take some time though. Building a cube will be longer than building a deck. I mean, you're essentially building a deck that's then going to build more decks. And then it says there's 3 different phrases: drafting, deck building, and piloting. I mean, I'd say deck building and drafting are pretty built together there. And then obviously building the cube. So there's some different sizes. You can do whatever you want. I'm not gonna lie. You want it a few hundred cards, right? Somewhere probably between 300 and 600 cards is kind of what I'd say. You can do what you want though. It doesn't matter too much. Obviously, the smaller cube is, then the more you are to see certain cards. And then yeah, you can do whatever. I don't think it matters too much. Um, Obviously, larger or some more players and stuff like that, but whatever. And then the cube is generally going to be best with 8 players. You don't need 8 players. I'd say you need at least 4 players. I've done cubes with 3 players. It's not as fun. It's not like a terrible experience, but it's definitely you're looking at 4 to 8. I haven't done one with more than 8 players. I don't even know if I must have done one with 8 players, but like normally you're looking at, I don't know. The issue is it's kind of hard to find people to do cube with, right? Like I love doing cube, but it takes a little while. I mean, you should try it. Like legitimately, everyone I've done it with has enjoyed it to some extent, including people who don't really like Pokemon that much. So you should do it if you're like invited. It's really fun, but it is hard to find people. That's the big issue there, partially because of the time, but it's fun. It's like different events, and it's just pretty chill. And then what's actually in the queue here? This is the big thing, obviously. Is what's in it? You have Pokemon trainers and energies, but not basic energies. You could put in basic energies in the cube. I personally have not done that or played in that. That's going to be a very different experience. I would not recommend it. Maybe you could do it, if you really want to do something spicy there. But I would not do that. I highly would recommend against that. Generally, it's going to be like pre-release where you're given any amount of basic energies after to make your deck. I mentioned you could get draft 40 cards to make a 40-card deck. You remove some cards, add in basic energies there. Yeah. Then you have Pokemon and trainers. You want more Pokemon than trainers. Here's what it recommends, but you don't want you still want a bunch of trainers, right? And then you could have some special energies as well. Special energies will function like trainers essentially, right? So yeah, just wanted to mention that's pretty much the role they'll be filling there. Yeah, and then you don't necessarily need any special energies. It says it's beginner friendly. I don't know. I would say Cube is not super beginner friendly. It can work for newer players, but I'd say it's probably worse, or it's theoretically very difficult. I'd compare it to GLC with the fact that you have a lot of information floating around. The floor is low, but if you're playing at the floor, you're gonna just get obliterated, most likely, and kind of be floundering. But the ceiling is really high. It is very fun. And there's some staples, whatever. We'll get into how to build it and how I build it. These things don't really matter too much. Theoretically, you can express yourself a lot with a cube, but if you're someone who has a collection, wants to build a cube from your collection, and doesn't want to spend a lot of money, just kind of ignore all this stuff, to be honest. The card ratios, again, you want more Pokemon than trainers. My cube, I believe, has 300 Pokemon in it, and it's a 500 card cube. It feels fine. My cube is not necessarily perfect. Don't let go building your cube off of mine. it's based on my collection cards that I think are cool. There also might be some mistakes. I originally had the wrong Crobat in, but it's very fun, and I like to put cool cards in it. But here it mentions build complete evolution lines. This is the one thing I disagree with the most. Not that you shouldn't build complete evolution lines, but I'd highly recommend a mutant cube. So mutant is something that is a special evolution rule. I think Tricky Jim recently made a video on it, and mutant evolution is Pokemon. So you can see. Let me open up a cube. So see here. I'll open the most popular cube. This is by Tricky. This one's a little different. Also, I do want to talk about cost. So Cube Koga recently changed how it's like displayed. Recently, since I like last look at like OmniPoke's IRL Cube. Okay, well I don't know what the cost is. I think it's like unless I'm missing it, which I might be missing it on the screen, but I don't see it. Is it in the overview? If someone knows where I can find it, tell me. I think it's like $2,000 or $3,000. That's where most of the cubes I've seen have been. You do not need to spend that much. My cube is a few $100s, I think. And I don't like spend that money. Again, these are cards from my collection. I spent a few like a little bit of money on a few cards. I was like, I want some older cards. I think I was a little on this Hitmonchan. This is basic Hitmonchan. I was like, ooh, this is cool. I saw it in the store. I was like, it's a classic. It's not even that good or interesting, but it's kind of cool. So you could play with lots of cool cards as well. That's like, the cool thing about it. But with a cube, most cubes that you see on Cube Koga are these, you're following the regular evolution rules with some exceptions. For example, Radiant Venusaur obviously is normally a basic. Here it's treated as a stage 2. And same thing with, or a slightly similar thing with Alolan Vulpix evolving into Ninetales, and Brock's Ninetales evolving from Vulpix and Alolan Vulpix there. You can, make whatever changes you want. Make sure that, that they are relatively logical. Obviously, Hisuian and Zora evolving into Zoroark makes a lot of sense. If you had Hisuian and Zora evolve into, Druddigon, which evolves into Bronzong Break, that wouldn't make any sense, right? So, normally most cubes that you'll find in Cube Koga follow close to regular evolution. However, the big issue is if you just have a collection, you're probably not going to have too many evolution lines that are like full. So that is something that's going to be really difficult for you to do. It is something that in some ways can be more interesting, and make it sort of kind of locked into a game plan a bit more. But I think it is a lot harder to build for a newer player. And I've seen newer players do Mutant Cube, and I think that's a lot better because it's easier to build. On top of that, the other issue, so Mutant is you have instead of normal evolution, you have Mutant evolution. Any basic grass Pokemon evolves into any stage 1 grass Pokemon into any stage 2 grass Pokemon. And that's it. That's just how it works. This means that you'll just have the all the evolution lines will just be the types. It makes it a lot easier for newer players to draft. If you're not familiar with what the different like pieces are doing, you look at what the card does, and that's what the card does. Versus if you look at Bulbasaur, Bulbasaur does like nothing, right? This Bulbasaur doesn't do anything essentially. I mean, it does something, but it's pretty useless. What it does is it evolves into some of these powerful evolutions. We need to know the evolutions to kind of know what the Bulbasaur is going to do, and you can have a strategy going in. You can have a strategy going into a Mutant Cube as well, but I think it's a lot more forgiving with a Mutant Cube as well. You're going to end up with some basics of all the different types. So if you see a stage 2 like later on, you can probably snag that up. And I mean, I just think Mutant Cube's better for some different reasons and easier. So I highly recommend Mutant Cube. That's the number one piece of advice here. And then, there's the card ratio stuff. I don't think that matters too much. And yeah, you want to have, or I will mention with Mutant Cube, the one thing that Mutant Cube really restricts you against, if we look at like a regular cube here, big basic Pokemon, like high HP basics. Sorry, why is there Shaman category? The way Cube Code works sometimes is kind of weird. Like Shaman EX, this is relatively high HP, 110 HP for a basic. I mean, it's not crazy high, but then you look at like Porygon 2, you evolve into a Pokemon less HP, so you really need to have these basic Pokemon be low HP. I got Shanty, which is kind of breaking that, but that's like being very like unique and out there. Most of these basic Pokemon I want to have, probably 80 or less HP, something like that. And then the stage 1, so you're looking at like that, like 90 through like 130 range maybe. Stage 2 is going to be, a bit more than that, right? So you need to kind of lock into the evolution stuff there. Also, I do want to mention I generally don't recommend including rule box Pokemon in your cube. You can, I know some people have, but it can make the power levels feel kind of swingy unless you're doing it very well. If you're more experienced with it, you can include rule box cards. We got like level X's, we got some EXs as well, but it's tuned pretty carefully. When you're a newer player building a cube, including myself, the balancing is going to be a bit out there, so you want to be a little careful with that. Don't do things that are pretty obviously going to potentially cause balance issues there. And then here's this is like the chaos I mentioned, 1-1-1 lines, which is kind of rough. But here it says the thick line is going to be 8-6 and like 4 or 5. And here it's 15-10-5, right? So you're going to have a lot of basics. You're going to have some stage ones, and you're going to have like a handful of powerful stage twos. This is how I really like the cube lines to look. I think it works super well, in my opinion. It's both forgiving and also allows you to have some interesting previous evolutions as well. I think all the previous evolutions in this are picked relatively carefully, except I will say for the dragon ones. The dragon ones are, and maybe even some of the middle ones, I don't have enough of those cards that I personally would like. And also, dragon just doesn't have that many types. So if there's a type that you're looking at and you're like, oh wow, I just don't have that much of this type, just don't play it. Like, I think it's passable for me for dragon. And also, let's be honest, I kind of want 10 types in my cube because it's in my name. So that is obviously not something most of you are going to be dealing with. So just, you don't need all the types. There is some weakness stuff as well. Theoretically, mutant enables or it makes you more vulnerable to weakness stuff, but also you can definitely mix up weaknesses as well. So for example, with like water type, you can see this Pokemon's weak to lightning, grass, so and this one's metal. With fire, these ones are all weak to water though, so it's not like perfect. I imagine you could probably get each type, um, have like no more than 3 Pokemon weak to the same thing, doing some weird shenanigans if you want. But I mean, yeah, quite simply, I'd say just have the different types to whatever level you're comfortable at, and then yeah, just do that. You can definitely add more theming and stuff like that as well. You probably want your cube to have certain feel to it that reflects you. Quite simply, I'd say the best way to go about that is start by just chucking in all your favorite cards. Cube is really easy to put in lots of random single prizers from different eras as well. Potentially, it's not going to be a huge balancing issue here. It might be a balancing issue. You need to be a little careful, but like Eric has Jigglypuff, an older Pokemon works okay as this like um, random single prize Pokemon. Again, another older card which I was like, oh, I think I want to snag that one. Paired with some standard cards like I mean Dracloak, right? Dracloak's a good card. But again, I'm not including Dragapult EX because Dragapult EX and these like powerful multi-prizers it would probably overpower the other stuff. I mean, it certainly does that already, right? And then in terms of duplicates, most people don't include duplicates in their cube. You can, and honestly, you probably should. It's kind of satisfying to not include duplicates. I have no duplicates of like the same card. I have some of the same Pokemon, and ultimately just do whatever you want with this. But yeah, just play cards that are cool. I'd say play cards that are cool. That's the first and foremost thing you want to be doing. If you're like, oh wow, I like this card. Also, it's like I don't really care about arts, but sometimes I show off some fun arts in my cubes. So you can if you're like, oh, I kind of want to play this card, check in their cube. Like, oh, this is a card I like, this Luxio. Okay, well, it's an item lock card. A lot of people probably won't like this card, but it's a classic for me. I think my first video on my channel featured this card. Might not have been my first, was one of my first few. But yeah, you can definitely do some cool early stuff there. And it says balance your types. This is pretty simple with mutant, right? You want to make them pretty similar. Obviously, if you have a lower quality of cards in a type, maybe just don't play that type. As in don't include it. It also talks about colorless cards. This is definitely interesting. Colorless obviously is different. You also look at dragon. It's also gonna be different there. But just do the Pokemon. The Pokemon are gonna be the backbone. And in terms of support Pokemon, I will say, like with basics, obviously, you want them to be interesting and good. But with with something like Shaymin EX or like some of these powerful basics, these are going to be like super good. Something like say this Oranguru, right? And if you put this in a mutant cube, it's going to both be a previous evolution and then also a a good card on its own, and then you might have cards being like super good and a little quote overpowered. A card being overpowered isn't a huge deal necessarily. It's probably not going to cause a bad experience for people really, but it could, so be a little careful with that, especially with the basics. And then we look at the evolutions. You don't want them to feel too swingy. It talks about some mistakes, which I'll go over here, but I don't think these are a huge deal. And then trainers, I'd recommend. Okay, what I'd recommend, this is something that a lot of people disagree with, but I'd say do mostly supporters for your trainers. Supporters, I talk about this in standard all the time. And Pokemon supports are kind of the backbone of decks. They allow you to go ahead and just if you play on every turn, you're on a pretty consistent place there, right? If you played theme, you know that like with the draw through supporters, they're okay. They're not that bad. They're not that good, but they're okay. And you could just literally throw in like 200 draw three supporters. It's not very interesting. Don't do that, but you could. And the reason for that is because a singular supporter is going to be more impactful to a game than a singular item. Generally, theoretically, you could have some really powerful items. I don't think I have any like broken items. Also, I will mention with Cube Koga, it categorizes these things called trainers. Like obviously you know what a trainer is, right? But these are items. They are items. I'm pretty sure. If we look at Bill, or sorry, let's look at literally any card that's not Bill. What on earth is Bill's teleporter? I've never seen this card in my life. Um, but anyways, let's look at Bill's teleporter, and it's an item. Limitless is, I believe, correct here. It is an item. Limitless is correct about pretty much everything, to be honest. And yeah, it is an item. It doesn't say it on the cards. It just says trainer, but playing wise, it is an item. I will also mention some of these have like old cards, and you can definitely get with some weird rulings. So be a little careful with that. I'm not really going to talk about that in this video because it's just kind of a mess. But yeah, I'd say have mostly supporters, right? A singular supporter compared to a singular item. I mean, this build, okay, I will technically this card has been like errated, but I'm treating this as a draw true item. Again, another older card, which has like an old classic one to include it. And this card, it is a better card than a draw three supporter, right? I'm sure you have some draw three supporters that they're just draw three, but I don't feel like finding it. I probably scrolled over one, but yeah, drawing two on an item versus draw two as a supporter. Draw two as an item is like super good. But draw three as a supporter, it's drawing you more cards. So you're gonna have inconsistencies with your deck, and I'd say just play more support, put more supporters in. Also, in terms of drafting, draft supporters, like I definitely see people and they like draft these cool decks and just don't set up because they haven't drafted enough supporters. So I'd say put a lot of supporters in your cube, play supporters. Yeah, that's just straight up what I'd say. And you want your supporters to help you set up. They can do different things. They don't need to be amazing. You can put in some fun cards like I love Choi. Choi's my boy. Each player reveals their hand, then you draw three. Just I love this guy. I thought it was like okay in standard, and it just I love it. I think the design is like super clean. Just an awesome card. But regardless, you can put in like different draw supporters like Clyde. This card is kind of terrible. Your opponent reveals their hand, draw two for each support you find there. Could be cool. Again, if there's like a ton of supporters, but something like, or just like a bad draw. So, I mean, like Dan, draw two, play rock, paper, scissors. If heads, you draw two more. I actually played a cube, and this was the main supporter. It's funny. It's kind of stupid. It's okay. It's pretty mediocre, but it is fun. So I'd say play lots of supporters. In terms of items, play so supporters should mostly be drawing your cards. Items should mostly be searching. They can do different things though. Do whatever items you feel like. And then you want some recovery. You want some gusting. I will say this is something OmniPoke mentioned in a video, which is something I hadn't thought about too much before, and it's actually a really important point. With certain limited resources, you want to be very careful. So if you have like one of in terms of supporters, like let me look at OmniPoke's cube. So it doesn't play bosses orders, and presumably doesn't play Guzma either. Yeah, it does not. So I do play these cards, but I play a little bit of Gust. This could be an issue with the cube. I'm not sure, but you want it to be something that feels like okay. You don't want like one person to have this like a couple people have Gust and people to have like no Gust and not have any chance to see it. So you want to have like certain of these like big things to be a little bit balanced. The main thing would be Gust. The other thing would be recovery. Those two can be a bit limited, especially Gus. There aren't that many Gus supporters or cards in general that are like legitimately good. A lot of them are not good. So when I say not good, like they're like Pokemon Catcher, right? I don't play that. I don't really play coin flip cards. I play a No, I was say I play a Pokeball, but I don't because I just don't like these cards. But if you want to play Gus, you can play Gus, but don't like. I wouldn't recommend just putting in like 2 or 3 Gusting cards. I think that's gonna feel kind of bad there. In terms of stadiums, tools, special energies, oh, another thing. I'd say, not everyone agrees with this, but I generally don't like cards that are too type specific. You can if you want to shape a type a bit more. But with a mutant cube, uh, your Pokemon are going to be the type stuff. And then you have the trainers, which I think should not be type specific. I think it's fun if people can like play with most of the cards that they draft. And you draft a card because you want to play with it. You can also do hate drafting, which is where you draft cards so your opponents can't play with them, so that you're in a better position relative to them. I don't think that's very fun. Now you're just taking stuff out that people can't play, which again, it can be fine, but it's not as exciting in my opinion. So I would say you want more universal cards in terms of stadiums and tools and special energies. Just do have them do like generic stuff. I think having them do similar stuff to your regular supports and items is fine. And don't worry too much about it. I'm not like amazingly confident on my stadiums, tools, and special energies, and at some point I might mess around with this and make it more defined and intentional. But don't worry about it too much. I wouldn't say really at all. Like you don't need them. Honestly, you don't need stadiums, tools, or special energies at all. You can do them, but like the ones I like the most, like Team Evolution, and something like honestly, something like Jubilee Village, or in Tropical Beach. I don't own that card. Who could have guessed that one? But like stadiums that help you set up, then also help your opponent set up are really cool. Something like say Iono. I will also mention something like Iono. It does function differently with different amounts of prizes, which is a little weird. I haven't had a huge issue with it, but do be aware of that. And then because you might be playing at different prize amounts in different games, so that's a little weird. But with Iono, you're going to be helping your opponent kind of set up as well, which feels good. You want both people to set up. It's much better if both people set up than neither person sets up. Neither person setting up, doing this like weird grindy game. Now, it's usually not very fun. When I say grindy, you're not doing that much. You're like swinging at each other for like 10 or 20. So that's what I'd recommend there. But again, the big thing is play a bunch of supporters and cards that help you set up consistently, as opposed to these big swinging cards. I think big swinging cards in the trainers aren't so fun. Here talks about like disruption. I talked about switching. I don't think switching matters too much. I mean, I do play switching cards, but what you can retreat as well, right? You can't gust if you don't have switching cards. You can switch if you don't have. Sorry, you can't gust if you don't have gust cards like boss and stuff. You can switch by retreating. So that's something to keep in mind. There's like disruption stuff. You want to be, here it says don't play too much of it. And play things that can help your opponent and help you as well. I think that's fun. Um, Stadiums, you could technically have like stadium war stuff, but I don't know. It's don't do too much. Here it says do more generic universal ones. Yeah, and then energy doesn't really matter too much. Um, yeah, I'd say don't include too many special energies. Originally, I had more. They are not very exciting. Same thing with tools. A lot of tools are like super boring, and no one ever takes them, in my experience, unless they're pretty good. And then let's see. There's playtesting certainly. Talk to people after it, and just play. It's fun. Again, you probably won't play with the cube too much because it is hard to find people, unfortunately. But it's fun. Mess with stuff. I mess with it when I get new cards and stuff. Um, And then here are some common mistakes. Also organizing. So I actually don't know um, a great way to organize it. Mine is in a Trainer's Toolkit box and then also 2 other deck boxes. So there are certain things that can be used for this. Um, you certainly want the card sleeve because you shuffle, and it says keep a list so you can verify nothing's missing. Mine's actually currently sorted. You can do that. I don't know, just keep it in a thing. This on section is not that useful, but I was hoping for something useful for me there, because this is something I struggle with, and other people do as well. There are certain things designed for what you can buy, but just use like ETBs or something. And then here are some early mistakes you can make. So it says not enough turns. This is a big thing. Um, Again, and not enough supporters. I think supporters are super important. You want like solid supporters. The different these issues here are like honestly these 3 issues fixed with Mutant. I think it doesn't make it perfect, but it kind of smooths things out in a way that's very manageable for you, the cube designer, and also manageable for the different players. And then we have the this checklist. I will say, choosing based on theme or era, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this at all. Um, you can do whatever, right? I'd say do whatever you want. Make sure it's like playable. I will also mention if you want a proxy, that's cool. If you want a proxy, you can do custom stuff. Actually, so cube content is kind of weird. I see a lot of cube content. I mean, this video is longer. With a lot of me, I mean, it's all me talking. That's my channel. That's mostly how YouTube works. But cube content can be like longer and slower. So tell me if you want like actual cube content, but where I like play a cube. But I've seen like some custom cubes that can be really awesome. um, I would not recommend it, certainly for a new player or really much at all. I think it's really fun when you're taking actual cards and combining them in an interesting way, combining older and newer cards, and cards that you like. And I don't 100% say you should be playing like your favorite cards in the cube, unless they're like unless your favorite card is something like ADP or Kisdalia Palkia. Though I have a friend who put ADP in the cube and said it went fine enough. So maybe it works. I don't know. But certainly with like random single prizes that you're like, oh, this card is so fun. Like this Mandibuzz, such a sick card. Glenn fun. This card is like actually pretty good. Mandibuzz is like fine. It's underrated in standard, but like such a fun card. You have like lots of different interesting things here. But overall, just have more Pokemon than trainers is the main idea. Probably do Mutant. I'd highly recommend Mutant. Do work with the cards you have. Oh, I didn't exactly distinctly say this with duplicates, but if you're like, oh, I have mostly non-duplicates in one type, but then I don't have quite enough cards for non-duplicates in another type, just check in the duplicates. That's fine. And if you can put in duplicate, like there's no rule against duplicates. It's something a lot of people don't do. Will it make a cube better if you have them? Honestly, maybe, yeah. So do whatever feels right to you. And when you play it, just go and have fun. It's a fun thing. It's a pretty casual thing. It is a bit of a long thing, but it is casual. It's really fun. And yeah, do that. And also play draw supporters. I think it's kind of weird that switching is highlighted. I don't think that really matters too much. I would not play too many switching cards. I play some, they're cool enough, but just play interesting cards. If you have more specific questions, ask those in the comment section. But I really hope you enjoyed this. Again, a bunch of people are asking for this, but I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure you like and subscribe because that really does help support me and the channel, and also shows that people like cube content and will encourage you to make more. Obviously, YouTube's about making cool content that I enjoy, that you enjoy. But also, I kind of know what you enjoy based on the numbers as well. So I hope you did enjoy. And also, huge shout out to my YouTube members for supporting me and the channel. It really does mean a ton. But as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.